consistently attract soulmate clients, begin showing up on brand, monetizing on your calling. Welcome all spiritual coaches, leaders, healers, light workers, and practitioners to a show that turns you on in your business and amplifies your magnetism. I'm host, catalyst, and spiritual business coach Rosalyn Fung, and I'm here to journey with you into the juicy and help you discover where the real gaps are. Ignite your mindset and soul with strategies and systems as each episode takes you to the sweet spots that activate your soulgasmic business. Enjoy this light language activation as we begin to magnetize and monetize.
Hello. Welcome, my loves, to another episode of Pleasure in the Bedroom and Bank. If you're new here with us, it is Rosalyn Fung, Akashic Visionary Life and Business Soul Coach, former registered psychologist, specializing in marriage and family therapy. And I have my sexy silver fox here, Dan Hague. He can do his own introduction.
Hi, everyone. I am a certified financial planner with IG Wealth, soon to be Hague & Associates Private Wealth.
Ooh.
Also registered retirement consultant and a chartered insurance professional.
Amazing. And so Dan and I really want to jam today on what makes, we have a lot of people wondering, like, how did you create yourselves to be such a power couple? We want to know the secrets. I've been really having lots of conversations with friends as well as clients, and it's just like one of relationship in the whole life wheel is a very significant aspects for many of you. I'll say us, right? And so we wanted to share today what the top reasons of why relationships fail. And we're going to share our own personal stories in how to reshift that so we don't enter that, but also our expertise. Like I shared, I have a master's in marriage and family therapy. So I was a psychologist, a former psychologist. I have had years of working with couples, and Dan, being a certified financial planner, has years of working with couples as well, from, of course, different angles.
And there's a lot of psychology involved with money, for sure.
And this is why we love to be Pleasure in the Bedroom and Bank. And so let's move right into here. And if, again, you're new to us, we have, this is probably episode number 6 or 7. I kind of lost count of Pleasure in the Bedroom and Bank, but all you got to do is just search under my podcast, Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and for Activate Your Soulgasmic Business. And you can look for all the Pleasure in the Bedroom and Bank episodes, the ones that say with Dan Hague. Okay. And so you can tune in and hear more about our own personal stories. Dan also shares wealth hacks that anyone can really implement now. We're very passionate about supporting individuals and couples have conscious relationship with money. And if you're in a relationship, and this is not a secret, everyone knows money is one of the top reasons that relationships fail, right? And so we're very passionate in supporting couples have conscious communication with each other around money. It's really deeply important. And this is our mission with Pleasure in the Bedroom Bank. And why in the bedroom as well? Well, because how you do one aspect of your life is how you do all aspects of your life. So of course, if you're becoming more intimate in your communication with your partner, that's going to seep into other areas of your life with each other, right? So let's just dive right in, unless there was anything else you want to add, babe?
No, that's great. I want to dive right into it for sure.
All right. So I'm going to share the top, right now, we're going to say the top 5 areas that we notice are huge reasons why relationships either fail or
stagnate.
Like, again, maybe not necessarily do you want to separate from your committed partner, but you're not feeling truly fulfilled. You're not feeling truly content. And it feels like, what the F is missing, right? So we're here to talk about that and for you to really look at your own relationship from a bird's eye view. Have no shame, no self-judgment around this in terms of, oh my God, I'm doing that. Look at it from a perspective of openness, of curiosity, of personal accountability, which hint, that's a huge reason how we can shift. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit more about that. And experiment. I even say to my clients who I business coach, have an experimental attitude when it comes to putting yourself out there, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to testing things, right? Have an experimental attitude. And really, those of you who know me personally, that's how I go into life. It's very experimental, but also intentional, right? Not be attached to outcomes. It's like, let's see what happens if I do this, or what are the possibilities that can unfold when I step into this next level version of me, when I try this on, and expect to not have it perfect. What the heck does that mean anyway?
Perfect does not exist.
Everything is feedback. Everything is feedback. And feedback can be positive, or feedback can be not so positive. It's like, that didn't work so well. Okay, what do I need to tweak? All right. And this goes with relationship. So the first one, and it's probably no big surprise, of what makes relationships fail or be unfulfilling is communication. Okay? We're going to go deeper into it. I'm just going to name them first. So communication. Number 2, money. Number 3, sex. Number 4, stagnant relationships. And number 5, something we often encounter is that you're moving at different pace in life. So what I mean by that is one partner, that might be you as you're watching this, likely so, is more into personal growth, or you're more spiritual than your spouse. And so how do you continue to evolve the relationship if you're at different levels? So we're going to talk about that, because Dan and I are actually a really great example of this. I'm way more woo than he is. And
just a little bit more.
Like a lot more.
Yeah, a lot.
But so how do we make it work? Because Dan lives more in his logical brain, and there's no right or wrong. It's not like, my way is better than his way. So we're going to share a little bit about how we stay connected, stay engaged, create a fulfilling relationship despite having different values in that sense. Okay. All right. So let's talk communication.
The big one. Yeah.
So I'm going to start by, obviously things don't work when you're in a communication pattern or patterns that don't make you feel safe with each other, whether it's always emotionally safe, right? It can be, of course, physically not safe, but we're going to speak more to assuming that this is the couple where it's just like you are in this pattern where you often find you're arguing on the same 2 to 3 things over the periods of years, and you just cannot seem to shift that. It's the same pattern. Or the way you're communicating, you feel like your spouse doesn't hear you. You feel like they don't listen. You feel like you can't get your point across. Anyone here? Okay. And it just feels like you're misunderstood. You feel resentful. You feel like, what the F is the point? Anything else you want to throw in there, babe?
Well, I mean, to me, it's active listening. We all have so much we want to say to our partner. Our partner also has so much they want to say to us. So being active.
Oh, hang on. We're not doing solutions yet, babe.
Okay. That's what
we're still talking about like problems, like what might be some of the ways that people are identifying.
Well, one thing that I think is interesting is sometimes you don't even recognize your own patterns until you have an outside perspective. So whether it be a coach, a psychologist, a financial planner, to recognize what patterns that you are in, you need that third person perspective often. Right. And also to provide validity, because if Roz, for instance, tells me that we're in this certain pattern, I might dismiss it. Right. I might say, no, I don't think this is the case. Whereas a third party, I'm like, okay, well, if they see it too, then maybe it's an actual thing that we have to address.
Yeah. So I'm gonna that's like, it's always helpful to have an outside perspective. But as you're listening to this episode now, look at your relationship with an outside perspective, with a bird's eye view. Okay, so I'm going to go with some examples of unhealthy, toxic communication patterns. Now, the background is I'm trained in family systems. So everything is systemic. So you have partner, let's say partner A and partner B, okay? Partner A says a certain thing, that's like a trigger to partner B. So partner B will react. Now, those of you watching on TV, you'll see me make this little pattern, right? So partner A says something that triggers partner B reacts. Partner A then reacts to partner B. And then partner B reacts back. So you have this circular pattern. Okay. And so some of these things I'm going to share and have you notice if you engage in these behaviors. Again, there's no judgments. There's no shaming here. Okay. This is really having you observe if this is happening in your relationship, whether you're the person engaging in this behavior or your spouse is, and not to blame them. Okay, just do it from a place of bird's eye view and observing and witnessing. Because here's the thing, when you have clarity about what is not working, holy moly, you have choice to go, whoa, let's do something different. Okay. And so there is a famous research psychologist. You may have heard of him, John Gottman. He has written the book 7 Principles of Making Marriage Work. It's an amazing book. Go and get it. You can get it anywhere, Amazon, chapters in a go. It's always on the bookshelves. Order it online. So he's got the Gottman Institute. So he has studied couples. And what he basically does is he says, okay, fight. And he watches these couples fight. He can tell within 5 minutes if they're going to stay together or to break up, if they continue these patterns. And so he has something called the Four Horsemen. Okay, so these are 4 behaviors that I want you to notice if it is part of your relationship pattern. Okay, so the first one is criticism. Either one or both of you criticize each other. Okay, criticizing not in a constructive way, but putting the person down.
I've got a question for you. Could that also feel like criticism, even though that wasn't the intent? So could one partner feel it?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So we'll talk a little bit about how to resolve that, because remember, everything is neutral until we put meaning to it. But it is in the tone and the delivery that is most important, because our brains process nonverbals first. So tone, the way it's delivered, facial expressions, body language, before what's actually being said.
That's why having an important conversation over text is awful. Don't do it.
Exactly. So criticism, okay? So this is where you're complaining, you're critiquing about your partner. The next one is contempt. This is really like you come across as being mean. You're putting them down, but you're also calling them names. You're shaming them. Okay, that's another one, which clearly does not lead to feeling safe with each other. I mean, the person also doing these behaviors doesn't feel safe, and this is their defense mechanism. Okay, so there's no bad guy here. It's just really recognizing, man, when I don't feel safe, this is where I go to. Okay, and I would say, like, being human, when I don't feel safe, I absolutely do get defensive. Absolutely. It's been years of work in progress to move into a space where I will notice the defensiveness come up, but I won't react to it. Okay, I will choose probably a timeout, until I can emotionally regulate myself to shift into a response.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, but contempt is with the intention of hurting the other person. Is that correct? Yeah. So that's the intention behind it. It's not a growth. It's to try and put the other person down and make them feel smaller.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And maybe it's not the intention, but it's what works in the past for survival.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So it's an attempt to control it, meaning control the situation, feel internally in control, right? Like if I'm putting someone down, I'm right. It's that right or wrong. Like somebody has to be wrong, and it's not going to be me, right? And so it is, I'll say, as an automatic reaction that's not conscious. Like I don't feel like people are intentionally trying to put someone down. Actually, like you're not intentionally trying to do that, but it's what they know based on their developmental traumatic response. It's pushing them away, even though they're underneath it all. We're wanting to seek connection. That is not going to create connection, obviously. Okay, but they don't know any other way because it's your family upbringing often, and it's what they witnessed. So, and then the fourth, are we on the third one?
You kind of spoke a bit about it, but let's dig into it a bit more. So
defensiveness.
Defensiveness, yeah.
Okay, so defensiveness, this is where somebody over here is really good at.
Who, where?
And again, we can laugh about it because we know what our own shit is, and we work through it, and we continue to work through it. But defensiveness is where it's like you're not willing to take accountability in that moment. It's like, and then you deflect it and you blame. I do that too. That's totally one thing that would be my automatic reaction. And and I will just be saying very consciously, notice that I say reaction and not response, because reaction is that automatic knee-jerk reaction, whereas response is more conscious and intentional. Okay, it's going to feel more like efforting when you're shifting away out of this pattern. I'll talk more about that later. Okay, so using excuses is defensive. And then stonewalling, which is usually a response to contempt. Okay, occurs when you're like trying to listen to somebody who's in contempt, who's being mean, let's say, but you're shutting down. Like you're shutting down more and more. You can't respond. So it's just like is this complete wall. So as we're going through this, I want you to notice which of these four would be your main horsemen in your relationship pattern. And we all have them. It like Dan and I can joke about it, but like it's because we know what it is for ourselves. Okay, mine is definitely defensiveness, and I would say sometimes I can get a little. Can I get a little mean?
Defensive with certain people. With certain people.
Yeah. So it's like that. I can see old version of Roz being like that, and when vicious Roz comes out, yes, for sure. Like not like only seeing red. Now, how do we shift out of this? So going back to what I was sharing about the patterns, right? We only have control over ourselves, our thoughts, our beliefs, our attitudes, our behaviors. Okay. And these all our thoughts, our attitudes, our beliefs all dictate our emotions. So when it comes to systems, and oftentimes, like when I used to be a couples therapist, oftentimes one of the partners would not be willing to come in for therapy. That's all good, because when I work with the spouse, here's what can happen. Like, of course, we can't predict the outcome, but what happens is the patterns shift, right? Because this is not a healthy pattern to be in. So we can shift it so that it expands and evolves a relationship, because my client starts to shift internally, which then they show up differently and more aligned with responding. Okay. And then so when it comes to systemic, so partner triggers, and let's say instead of partner B reacting, partner B interrupts a pattern and responds and moves into a different behavior. This is where earlier I said timeout could be a good thing. Let's take a timeout. Dan and I have had to do that not that long ago, actually, when we were having a conflict. I said, hey, like, we need to take a timeout. Let's just take a timeout until we sort of like collect ourselves and emotionally regulate, and come back in a couple hours, or come back tomorrow, right? I often said 24 hours. If it depends on the couple, right? Oftentimes one person might stew a little longer, and one person really wants to resolve it right now. That's usually the pursuer. And the person that needs to think a little bit longer is usually in the pattern of pursuer distancer, like the one that wants to avoid and then they shut down. Okay, so depending on the way that each partner processes, it could be like, come back in an hour when you're both calmer, if they were quick to calm, okay, and then start trying again in a way where you're listening actively to each other and you're responding. Okay. And so a timeout is really helpful to interrupt that pattern, because the thing is, if partner A triggers, partner B responds, partner A does not have anything to react to. I mean, they might, but like, partner B is way over here, not in the pattern. They've taken themselves out of the pattern, right? And over time, consistently, that's going to support the shift. Now, I know somebody out there is thinking, well, what if partner A never shifts? Then it's up to partner B, who has been working on themselves, who has been respecting more of their own boundaries and understanding why they've allowed what they've allowed for so long in the relationship, why they've been tolerating, to make choice points for themselves in their life. And so they may decide that, you know what, my truth is, I'm no longer willing to be in this relationship where my partner does not respect me, where my partner is not willing to budge. And to me, that's success. That if they get to the point where they're recognizing and choosing true happiness, and they are moving on from the relationship, that's true. That's their truth, right? We are born worthy of being happy, feeling fulfilled. And there's so many people out there who are tolerating living a mediocre life. Why? Because we don't feel like deep down inside we're worthy of more. So always it comes down to being clear about what you want, then going for it because you're worthy, knowing that it's like a worthiness thing here. It always comes down to that, no matter what part of life we're talking about, whether it's your personal relationship, maybe improving your health, maybe making more money, maybe building your business, like whatever that looks like, it always comes down to worthiness at the end of the day.
One of the biggest, most profound exercises that I've done through personal development is exactly digging into what do I want, right? And I love that exercise, actually writing out what do I want over and over and over again, speaking it to someone else and really verbalizing it and embracing it. Because once you act, you can kind of have a mental bucket list in your head or however you identify these things. But when you actually write it out, when you actually speak to someone else about it, it becomes real. There's almost a more of a commitment to it there. Because when it's all in your head, you can always dismiss it, push it off, whatever the case is. But once you've put it down on paper or committed to someone else to pursue it, then it becomes real.
So what is it that you want in your relationship? So many of us don't ask ourselves that. What do you truly want? Because we're scared to actually claim what it is that we want, because some part of us feels like we don't deserve it. We're being greedy. We're being selfish. I should already be grateful. No, claim what you desire. Eat, or maybe it's out of reach. That's what it seems like, right? It might seem really scary. That's a good thing. Put it out there, because some version of that is going to start manifesting as long as you put it out there and then you start working towards it, right? And so these, coming back to the Four Horsemen, these are when Dr. Gottman, he looks at, when he watches couples fight, if any of these four are happening in their patterns, that usually if there's no progress in shifting communication patterns, that's going to lead to separation. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful. Go get that book. It's really, really easy read. Actually, I took it on our honeymoon back in 2006 because it's really great book for all stages of relationships. Like even if we're 20 years this June of being together, which is we think that's crazy amazing. I know, high five on that one, right? It's just like, wow, right? But this is an easy read. It's got some practical exercises. It was my hands down favorite book for couples that I would recommend. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so number one, establish healthy communication patterns, because honestly, it's the process. So it doesn't matter what topic you're talking about so much as how you communicate in your relationship pattern with your partner.
Yeah, and as it relates to how I interact with my clients, it's so interesting when I'm talking about finances with my clients, and I have a document that they fill out to list down their top priorities, and quite often one spouse does it and the other spouse does it, and they're cheating. They're looking at each other's document because they've never had that discussion before. And like Roz said, it doesn't matter what topic it is. If you're not in communication with your partner, how are you going to know you're pursuing the same goal?
Yes.
So I help them identify what their own individual goals are and then bring it all together into a system that works for them. And whether it's money, sex, whatever topic is on the table, it's important to be in alignment.
Absolutely.
Knowing your partner.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when we come back from commercial, we're actually going to dive in more specifically when it comes to money, when it comes to sex, and we can share a little bit more about how we implement communication in these areas.
OMTimes TV. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. OMTimes Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, OMTimes offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an OMTimes magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on OMTimes TV and broadcasting it across the extensive OMTimes radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. OMTimes. Open yourself to the possibilities.
Are you feeling maxed out working one-on-one with clients and you're deeply desiring to scale your business for more time freedom without sacrificing your income, but rather expanding it? Many of my clients who are lightworkers, healers, practitioners, and even coaches, they're often multi-modality, are coming to me because they are sick and tired of working with clients on a one-off session model where the clients are coming in on an as-need basis. Or if they're selling packages, they are selling them in the sense of buy 5, get 1 free, or the greater the number of sessions, the greater the discount. The problem with this is it's still a dollar for hours business model. And so that leaves the practitioner feeling really exhausted and overwhelmed from having to put so much time, effort, and energy in finding new clients that they're not operating in their most elevated self with their current clients. And so if this is you, I would love to share with you that it's time to elevate your business and scale it to sell high ticket one-on-one programs or even group programs. This will allow you to have more deeper impacts because you're raising your clients' results, you're scaling your business, and you're having that time freedom you deeply are yearning for. If this is resonating with you, love, I'd love to invite you to come on a soul business alignment call with me so that you can stop feeling like you're on this roller coaster ride and start to feel safe and stable and even having fun in your business and your finances. Please go to electrifymybusiness.com to apply and we'll hop on a call. I can't wait to connect.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Hi, loves. Welcome back. So we're going to dive in deeper now about the topics of money and sex. I know it's a juicy stuff. And what shifts can we make to really connect more and create a deeper, fulfilling relationship with our partners, especially when it comes to these topics, because they are top topics that would break relationships. So do you want to share, babe, like how you, as a financial planner, help couples get on the same page? Because that's a big thing. It's about getting on the same page first. And again, Dan mentioned having an outside perspective, a professional, is always helpful to lead and facilitate that conversation.
I think what it comes down to is get them to dream together. And what I mean by that is, for instance, I met with some people yesterday, later 50s, and they want to retire. And they said, yeah, they want to retire, but they've never really identified, they've never dreamt together about what retirement looks like for them.
Oh, wow.
So when it comes down to, they live here in Kelowna with us, but they also want to travel. They also want to travel. They want to be able to provide for their grandchildren. They want to be able to do a lot of different things, but to get them to visualize it and saying, well, what does travel mean? Does that mean going to Vancouver? Or does that mean going to Mexico and Europe and doing all these amazing adventures in retirement? So I think when couples come into alignment with their dreams, it really fires them up to make it a partnership and pursue these goals together. So it's, my left brain can only do so much, but my right brain, when you visualize, you connect with your partner in ways that maybe you haven't before. And I think that brings people together.
How do you feel how were they feeling when they were dreaming together with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost a relief in the sense that hey, I've got a buddy in this, right? It's like is a very stable couple from what I know of them, but it always feels empowering to have a partner that is truly in alignment with your goals and understands what you want out of life. So to have those real discussions, and once again, to have some excitement. Yeah, they're in their late 50s and they're excited about retirement, right? They enjoy what they do, but they still have that excitement about retirement.
And so this would be a question for you to reflect on in your relationship. Are you expressing your desires? Are you expressing your dreams with each other? Because money is just a tool to get there, right? And then money is also then you can also understand how to prioritize, how to go into relationship with your money, how to allocate it, and all the other financial stuff that Dan
all the left brain stuff. Yeah.
Right. But Nick, let's start with, do you dream together, or are you scared? Because this is like very common, actually, that oftentimes people are scared to express what they truly desire, whether it's in the future, whether it's in the bedroom.
Yeah. Well, expressing what your financial goals are, maybe not as scary as expressing what your intimacy goals are. Right?
And sometimes it is. Sometimes it's scarier to and it could be vice versa. It could be scarier for people to express what their financial goals are versus their intimacy goals. So intimacy needs. Sorry, that sounds funny. Intimacy goals. And so we all have needs, because at the very bottom of it, whether it's sexual needs, whether it's financial, goals, we want to pare it down to the root, which is speaking your truth, sharing courageously, taking that risk of being rejected by your partner, which that's why oftentimes people tend to not say anything, because here's what I hear often. I know my partner and I know that they wouldn't be open to this. What happens? Their desires just dies inside. It leaves an energetic gap between the partners because the desire isn't truly expressed. That's an assumption. So it could be true, not true, or somewhat true. But then what's the worst that could happen if you do express it? What's the best that could happen? Right? So you got to look at those things. And sometimes it is a timing thing. So that might be something to consider, right? So, maybe it's not the best time because my spouse is going through something right now that's really delicate. Then yeah, probably not the right time if it's another thing that feels like too overwhelming. So it is oftentimes, you have to look at, is this the right time? And we'll never feel ready. So just put that in the formula. You'll never feel ready to share. And so it's just well, how do I share it in a way where they can really hear me and I'm prepared for the answer to possibly be no, I'm not open to that. But then let's explore, why are they not open to that? What about that makes them uncomfortable? And we can talk about that through money goals, through sexual goals, right? When it comes to sex, it could be oh my God, my partner's going to think I'm a freak if I express I want to do this. And so there's so much shame and history and shame around sex. And so it's even often more difficult, more vulnerable to share our needs. But the intimacy happens not in the, yes, I'm open to that, or the intimacy happens in the process of the communication, in the partners showing up for each other, regardless of what the answer is. It's the, hey, I'm taking a risk to tell you something that's on my heart and my deep desires. I understand this is really tough for me to share because I'm afraid I'm going to be rejected by you. I'm afraid you're going to make fun of me. I'm afraid.
Vulnerability, right?
Is this about vulnerability? Now, caveat, you already need to feel safe in your relationship for this to happen, okay? On some level. If this is a relationship where your partner is not safe, they're emotionally abusing you, this is not a partner that you can share that with, right? I'm talking about an established sense of foundational safety, and now you're deepening that relationship. And this is Dan and I practicing this by taking risks, in sharing our fantasies, whether it's in the bedroom or in the boardroom, if you will, right? Or in our life, like in our traveling life. It's taking risks to go, here's what I'm thinking. Rather, and yes, you might have assumptions like, oh my God, my partner's going to shut me down. Like they're not going to be open to that. Notice those. And then you can even name them. You can say, I'm really scared because here's why this is so hard. I have these assumptions. You see, you're not blaming them just already defensive and coming across as that. You're saying, I have these assumptions. So what's going to happen is likely your partner's going to go, okay, this is really delicate. My partner needs me to listen. And you can even say that. I need you to just listen, not interrupt, because this is really hard for me. And I'm curious about your thoughts, your feelings on what I'm about to share. Right. And so like laying it down from that place of, I trust you, I'm taking a risk here, here's my fears. Now, how do you think the partner's going to respond? With attentiveness. Again, if the safety's there. If they're coming down as shutting off, then that might happen, right? Then it likely is that's information for you, that's feedback for you. It's not personal, that perhaps that was too much for them to take in. And it's like, okay, I see that was a lot for you to take in. That's how you can respond to your partner who may be shutting down.
Or for someone like me who needs a bit more time to take it in.
Yeah. And so what partner can say in response is, well, thank you for sharing. Let me just take some time. Let me first of all acknowledge what you said and acknowledge your courage to share this. And I feel like I need to just kind of gather my thoughts, make sure I heard what you shared is correct. I'm not making assumptions. So, right, sharing, active listening, and then stating back, and it sounds silly, but it is a powerful technique, stating back what you heard. Because you could have heard something totally different than what your partner was trying to communicate to you. How many times does that happen? All the effing time, right? And so being able to slow down the conversation like this, rather than just spitting it out and then running away or whatever it is that we do, okay, slow it down. You heard me give you the example. You can replay this over and over again. Slow it down, share what you want to share, but prep your partner by saying this is scary because of these assumptions or these fears I have. And I just really need you to, and then whatever you need them to do, listen, right? And I'm interested in your thoughts on this. And partner B might just be like, okay, I'm going to make sure we're on the same page. But I need to gather my thoughts. So once we're on the same page, your partner might be able to respond right away in that moment. Or they might be like, I need to sit with this because I need to gather some thoughts, and respect that. It's not personal. Respect the process and come back and commit to a time to come back and discuss.
I think that's very important. I was just thinking that too. You commit to a time to bring it up again. Don't just kick the can down the road and dismiss it and then say, oh yeah, we talked about it, but it's not a thing we're going to do. But you didn't actually talk about it. So yeah, I like that point.
Yeah. And I mean, we're not just telling you just to tell you, like we do these things, like these are things that if I want to try something in the bedroom, bring it up. It might be like, Dan and I have a very playful relationship. So, it's not as scary for me to bring things up, but sometimes it's just like, I want to try this, or he brings something up and it's like, okay, well, let's explore that. Right. It could be even like our process on moving here too, right? It's just like, hey, I'm dreaming of this. What are your, here's what I'm thinking, blah, blah, blah. And I'm noticing my ego coming up. It's like, oh, no. And my high self's like, oh, that sounds amazing. We'll move to a different province and be closer to water and mountains. My ego was like, no, I'm rooted here in Edmonton, right? And so it's like, the more self-aware we are about the different parts of us, our ego self, our inner critic self, and not letting those parts drive the bus, but rather be an observer to our own process, that is so powerful bringing into the conversation. It's also very helpful to take personal accountability, which is, I will say, the greatest concept to embody. radical personal and spiritual accountability. So what I mean by that, and I have a whole episode about this, I think it's episode number 3 of my podcast, which is life is happening for us and through us. Okay? And from a spiritual perspective, I really believe that it's a soul contract thing, right? We chose our family. We chose the time we were born. We chose who our parents are going to be. We chose, who our soulmates are. We chose this life, and we choose when we die. Yes, that might sound really like crazy in that way, but soul contracts, right? Everything is happening for us and through us. And so the opposite of personal accountability is victim. When you believe that life is happening to you and you have no sense of control. And again, listen to that podcast episode. I put it in the show notes later, because it really talks about the 3 levels of personal accountability and victimhood. And so this really is about when you're a victim, you're blaming yourself or you're blaming other people. That gets you nowhere. Can we say that? Like it gets us nowhere when we do that.
100%.
And the first step when we are in conflict, because we were joking around, but Dan goes into defensiveness, and I can go into contempt a little bit. And I was like, okay, hang on, right? And the first thing I'll do is usually it's me that breaks it, and I'll be like, okay, so when you're saying that, this is what's coming up for me. I'm taking accountability of my own reactions right now. And then he softens because I've softened.
The whole energy changes.
Right.
Yeah.
But, it'd be nice if you soften sometimes first, babe. But this is what makes relationships alive and makes relationships juicy. It's in the everyday that you will find those conversations, those opportunities to have these deeper conversations with each other. Especially those of us who are parents. We can get, let's go to that next point, right? Stagnant in our relationship. We can get sucked into our roles as parents, and then we forget about ourselves as partners. So it's important to date your spouse. It's important to go out regularly and have those times where you are without your kids, where you're not talking about your kids, where you are dating each other.
Connecting again, right?
Yeah. It's really important.
Seeing your spouse in a different light. In a previous episode, we spoke about how we see each other in a professional setting. If we're on stage doing a presentation, that's not the person who we see each other at home as. So to see your spouse in that, powerful position is exciting and energizing, right? Yeah. And it's like, oh yeah, this is the woman. There's many aspects of her that I love, but this is just another aspect of it. I think, oh my God, I'm drawn to her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then, not everyone is a speaker, so making that assumption that you can create this in the everyday. So what's really important is that you don't forget about the couple, the relationship, your roles outside of being parents. Is there anything else you want to say about staying in a relationship before we go into what happens when one partner is more spiritual than the other?
Well, can I take a little detour? We spoke about having a vision together. Can we talk about how we manifested the next place we're moving into?
Sure. We only have a few minutes, so if you can take a few minutes.
If you want to wrap it up with something, we can save that topic for another day.
Yeah, let's save that topic if that's okay. Babe. Okay, just because I feel like what's more important for our audience is the spiritual aspects, what happens. This is a really hot topic for a lot of my audience is, I am way more woo than Dan. It's obvious. And so how do we deal with this? How do you deal with me being more woo? Sometimes I think you're starting to believe that I have psychic abilities because I share all the things and I'm doing your Akashic record readings, but his ego is not making sense.
I'm open to listening to her, right, and hearing everything that she is passionate about and pursues, and everything happening there. And I consider it, but my logical brain says that's not my thing. But recognizing that everyone comes from a different perspective and has a different energy about these, my way isn't the right way.
Neither is my way.
Right? Yep. Nobody's way is the right way. Just being open.
It's being interested. Dan's very interested, but also there are things that have been happening. Okay, now you can share your manifesting story because I'm curious about what left brain is saying about this.
Okay, so to set it up, and I've got to do this very quickly, is that we're looking to move into a different place here in the Kelowna area, but it's very defined in terms of what we're needing. And we thought about, okay, well, maybe we can't find it. We might have to move back to Edmonton. So be it. Anyways, we were having a discussion, and we're going to plan out our future. And literally at that moment, I was scanning.
Okay, no, background is we're on a date Friday night. This was last Friday. And I'm like, okay, we're manifesting. We're manifesting what we want. And we listed the checklist specifically: 4-bedroom, furnished. I said, I'm going to stretch, but this is going to be the rent, which was way under what the going rate is. And backyard for kids. And so literally the next day, the second ad was exactly everything and more. Yeah. And it's right by a beach. There's a community pool and hot tub. We're just like, oh my gosh. And it was exactly for the dates that we would want from September to June. Exactly. So we both were like, whoa. And so anyway, there's 1,000 views. There's so many applicants. But Dan came manifesting, putting into action, messaged them, emailed them, of course, positioned ourselves as like who we are. And they called us. And so on Sunday, as we're recording this, on Sunday, the owner said, you are our top choice. We're going to come out and meet you. They're actually from Alberta. And
if we want it, we got it.
We got it. So what's your left brain say? Because I'm just like, yeah, that's how manifesting works.
Well, my left brain is saying, it's going to bound to happen eventually. But I mean, the incredible fact that it happened after we had the discussion and really honed in on what we were pursuing, and then it manifested immediately afterwards. That's quite incredible.
This is how it happens.
Left brain cannot define how.
Yeah. So these things are happening. So slowly, Dan's slowly going, oh, okay, I'm going to explain this. So I'm going to open up more. It's really fun. So we have a minute left. So in closing, my loves, I really encourage you, if you're really enjoying this episode, like go and tune into the other Pleasure in the Bedroom and Bank episodes that we have. We talk more about our personal life and how to be a power couple. We are pretty real, as you can see. This is not scripted. Like we have notes. We're like, okay, we're just jump about this. And you can see I'm sometimes like, yo, Dan, we're not there yet. So hang on. Right. But our wish for you is to deepen your relationship. Come into the aliveness by being in the present moment with each other, witnessing yourself and noticing what parts of you can shift to show up in your relationship more. Be brave, be bold, be unapologetic, and be in receiving as well. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Ditto. Okay. Thank you, my loves, for joining.
What she said. There we go.
And if you're in Canada, Dan is certified across Canada, so you can connect with him. His link will be in the bio.